everybody. Welcome to episode number 19 of The Hidden Window. This is going to be a totally different episode. This is going to be the Halloween special. So, what are we going to talk about on this Halloween special? We're going to talk about basically where I live and what's happened to where I live and my family, what we've experienced here, because that's enough for a Halloween special to fill up everything I need to do. We live in the Shenandoah Valley here in Virginia. It's a very old part of the United States. Matter of fact, one of the oldest. When I mean old, right after Jamestown, Virginia old. This area originally was all British, obviously. A lot of the land was a land grant from the Queen of England. So this goes back a long time. Here and around our farm out here, quite a number of acres. But we've experienced some things over the past that have just been, just weird, bizarre. So, it's kind of that time of year. I'm looking at the leaves are turning outside. They're all falling. But let's talk about just things that we've experienced. So we've seen things we're not seen, heard. Doors opening, closing, plates moving in the kitchen. My wife and son just heard that, it couldn't be more than a few weeks ago. They heard somebody walk around in their kitchen, a door opening, somebody moving objects in there. It wasn't me. I wasn't home, but they heard it. But we had a lot of that. We've had, you can hear spurs, boots and spurs once in a while, cigar smoke. We have the, happenstance. We actually live on a Civil War battlefield. There was a battle fought here, and there were casualties and KIAs in this battle. So let's start off what I think is related to that. We have a large underground propane tank outside the backside of our house. And my wife and son were sitting, and again, I wasn't here for this, but they were sitting there during the day. My wife said to my son, I wish your father would tell me when somebody's coming here to fill the propane tank because someone just walked by. And she saw him. She said it was a gentleman, maybe like 6 foot tall, wearing a blue uniform, had a blue hat. And she thought, it's the propane company to fill up the thing. As my wife said that, my son looked at another window and he goes, oh, yeah, there's somebody walking past. He said he walked with a purpose. And a lot of people, want to work around your house. They don't just kind of, they do their job, but they're not really gung-ho about it. This guy was gung-ho. My son said he wasn't sure what was going on, but he saw it. Same thing my wife saw. When he went outside, interestingly enough, he thought that what he saw didn't seem right. There was something off about it. He just had this feeling. You ever look like a mannequin? And it's not human. You just know that's not human. Or even some of these AI images. And you look, that's not real. There's something in your body. Something's telling you that something's wrong here. He felt the same way. So he had a pistol nearby. He put it in his waistband and went outside immediately. And there's nothing there. Now, he's a very good tracker. He could track like an Indian. He could tell you where a trail picks up, if an animal walked through. And he could do it for hundreds and hundreds of yards. He went outside. There was nothing. Zip, zero, nada. So somebody walked past. Blue hat, blue uniform, with a purpose. Remember, there was a battle fought here. We knew the identity of one of the casualties in this battle. His name was Abraham Miller. You're going to ask, how do I know that? Abraham Miller was with the 5th West Virginia Cavalry. He was an officer. He was a lieutenant. There was a record of him being killed at this location. I like the metal detector. I was out with my kids one day, and they discovered some buttons, and all in a very tight circle, which you would think maybe if someone was wounded or killed, they would be in a very tight area, which these were. These buttons were identified to belong to an officer of the 5th West Virginia Cavalry Regiment. So these buttons more than likely belong to Abraham Miller, who was killed in action June 10th, 1863. So maybe he's back looking for his button. I don't know. Could be. Now, I know his name because he was the only officer killed during the engagement. When you have names of somebody, you have to be very careful. Even if you don't have the name, you have to be very careful. The dimensions have rules. Everyone has to follow rules. It sounds crazy, but it's not. You'll see where I'm going with this. You do not want to engage an entity. You never want to engage them. You don't want to reach out to them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to channel anything through them. I know the Bible is very, very clear in this point. It's called necromancy, all right? You do not want to talk to the dead. There's implications on this. Once you open that door, there's an invitation. Then once that invitation is accepted by you in any way, shape, or form, then that door is open. So be extremely careful with these things. Do not engage anything. Be very careful what you wish for. There's a local legend around here. It was a couple. They were young, and they could not have a child. So what happened one day, a ghost, they were told a ghost of a little girl entered their house, and she said she wanted to live with them. And they thought, oh, how nice. Why don't we invite this little ghost girl to live with us? Sounds crazy, but people do this kind of stuff. You just accepted an invitation and opened that door. Was not a child of a ghost. This was a demon. So be very careful, folks. This stuff is real, all right? So do not play around with it. Just a little tip for the wise. We move on to another thing that happened to my son. This is back when he's probably maybe 10, 12 years old. We had some cousins visiting down from Connecticut, and they were large property. They were playing paintball all day long, having a blast. Right around dusk, they came back home, and my son noticed, and so did a nephew of ours, that coming through our fence, we have these split rail fences, that he saw something, and he thought it was my son trying to sneak up on him, right? So he looked and didn't think much of it. But then he stopped, and he looked closer. This wasn't anything human. He described it as being very spider-like. It was a black shadow, but it was 3D. You hear stories about shadow people. This had dimension, it had touch, it had substance. He said it moved through the rungs on the fence, almost like a spider, first reaching through with its hands and its very slender arm, pulling itself through the fence. Now he looked at it, and he knew something was wrong. But then he stared down at this creature, for lack of a better word. This thing made eye contact with him. When it made eye contact with him, it stopped. It looked straight at him, and it reversed the exact same way it came in. So this thing did not want to be detected. My son thought that it was headed towards our house. He said he felt as though it had a purpose. It had a purpose for being there. At this point, my son got a little scared because my other son was playing paintball. He knew he was in the fields coming up from behind where this creature was. So he got worrisome about that. But thankfully, nothing happened. But what was this thing? He saw it. The nephew saw it. They were both terrified, by the way. They came in the house. They saw something. There's just 0.0 doubt about that. It was a creature with substance. It had a function. He said, I asked him to describe it. He said it was probably not like Gollum on Lord of the Rings, but it looked weak, very frail, but he said it had a function and a purpose. So this entered our reality, entered our plane. He saw it. He saw him. It didn't want to be seen. It left. Now, this next one, folks, this next one's for the books. This is, I've experienced this myself. This one I could personally tell you I saw. My wife and I were away in another area, so my son was home and was taking care of things here on the farm. He noticed up in the woods, probably about maybe 50 yards beyond our house, he saw what he described as very, very large, maybe the size of a wolf, maybe a little larger. Of course, there's no wolves here, but it was a very large canine animal. But when he saw it, he said this thing just reeked of death. It just looked so, had mange on it, looked like it had rabies. All you thought about when you saw this was that you have to put this thing down immediately because it was just disease. It was just the worst thing. It could affect everything, every plant, every animal, every person around us. This thing had to be put down. He saw it, and it goes up, and then it disappeared. And he said, okay, that was strange. That was odd. Then it happened again. It happened again the next day. He, at this point, saw the exact same thing. And this time it was closer to the house. Again, he saw this mangy-like creature. This time he said, all right, I'm going to have to shoot this thing. It was just positioned in a way where you could see it from the neck down. That was it. You know, these stories of things with red eyes, none of that. He saw it from the neck down. This time he grabbed his rifle and he said, I'm going to shoot this thing because it's coming around our house. It's going to kill our farm animals. We don't know what's going on. And he wanted to kill it. Grabbed his rifle. He looked again and it was gone. He said, all right, I'm going to be ready the next time this happens. He takes his rifle and he puts it alongside the door. In between, he called up my daughter, who doesn't live around here, and said, I think I'm seeing things. And she described what happened. She actually called me and said, Dad, I think there's something wrong because he's seeing things back home. So I called him up. I said, what's going on? And he described what was happening. And then I said, well, just, take it easy. Maybe it's just probably a rabid animal hanging around the house. You're probably right. Shoot it if you can. He saw this thing a third time. Each time it kept getting closer and closer to the house. This third time, he was ready for it. Okay? Again, same thing. Menacing looking creature. Just the worst thing you can imagine. Grabbed his rifle, went outside to raise and get a shot off, and it vanished. It was gone. He went, each time, by the way, he went to track these things. He could track anything. There was nothing. Zip, nothing. Nothing. We got home that evening. It was probably getting near dusk. And he was telling me all about it. And he was shook up over this. And I'm like, well, this is weird. And I kept thinking, well, we better hunt this thing down because it's a rabid animal and it's going to bite our dogs and we're going to have a lot of problems. I am looking out the window and I'm about 15 feet from looking out. And then, to my amazement, I saw it. It was everything that he was saying. Everything I told you is what I saw. It was large. We have a dog called Maremma. Maremmas are like a Pyrenees on steroids. It was larger than that. This was large, but it was just, you ever see an animal mange, all the fur comes off it? It was that. 10 times worse. It looked like an ad for disease. When you saw it, you weren't as much scared as you were like, I have to kill this thing. It's going to affect everything and everyone around us for its own good and good of humanity. I got to take it out. I kept an eye on it. It was in the window. Again, each time closer and closer and closer to our house. Closer. This one was between a peach tree and our door. I kept an eye on it through the window. I opened the door and it was gone. Now, the only place it could have went is to a fence line, which is about maybe 15, 20 feet away. In 1 second, it would have reached that best. It probably still would have been there. There was nothing. This thing vanished, folks. It just gone. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think this might have been. We had a neighbor, gentleman that, honestly, remember Scrooge from the Christmas Carol? Scrooge made this guy look good, okay? This guy, God rest his soul. We pray for him all the time. Is there proof of purgatory? It's him. But this guy was just he was a miserly dude, kind of mean. Well, we found out that he died that evening. What was this thing? Was this some kind of they call them hellhounds. That's the name. Hellhounds are sent as a warning. Something's going to happen. If you look in a lot of Irish folklore, English folklore, they exist. And those that they report them as you see the large glowing red eyes. And soon as after you see that, somebody dies. In this case, this gentleman did die. All right. Each time, this creature, whatever it was, we never saw a head. I never saw a head either. It did the same way. It was facing one direction. That direction, folks, was straight at this guy's house. It got closer and closer and closer. Whatever it was, it wanted to be seen. It wanted to send a message. It did. All right, so that's really weird in my books, folks. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the Halloween special and you enjoyed it. Maybe next to some carved out lit up pumpkins. Maybe you're sitting outside by the fire enjoying yourself. But that was it. It was fun. It was enjoyable to do. Everyone take care and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.